Okay, I think that should be good. And yeah, buckle up, Matt.
All right.
Here we go. Oh, wait, I need my notes. Hi, Pete. I love you. Okay, here we go in 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Make Me a Nerd. It is the podcast, which, no, I'm going to start over. Pete, I got all thrown. Wait till you hear my guess. That's why I'm nervous. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Make Me a Nerd. I am Mandy Kaplan, a mainstream mom whose mission is to explore all things nerd culture that I have been missing out on my whole life. And today we're going in the Wayback Machine to something that was even before my time, before my guest's time, but a cultural phenomenon that people are obsessed with and they refer to at dinner parties, and I am always clueless. I'm talking about James Bond. Today, we're getting nerdy about Goldfinger with my incredible guest, who I'm very excited about. I know him through one of my miscast performers, his husband, Patrick Gomez. And I love Patrick Gomez with all my heart. He is one of my favorite people on the planet. Then I met his husband, Matt Groot, who might be even better. He is wildly smart, wildly accomplished. He is the vice president of production at Crooked Media, which we're going to dive into first. He is just an all-around spectacular and handsome human being. Here he is, Matt Groot.
Hey, Mandy.
Hi, Matt.
How's it going?
It's going well. I'm sorry you're getting over a cold.
It happens, so I apologize to the audience if I sound weird.
You don't. You sound glorious. When you get sick, what do you put on that just comforts you and you can, zone out and it's not mentally challenging? What's your go-to on the TV?
Well, I feel like this is getting ahead of the game, but James Bond movies.
That's what my husband Jer, who you know, but in case he's listening who doesn't, he always puts on James Bond when he gets sick.
It's just a comfort. It's a blanket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he often falls asleep, and that's okay because he's seen them all.
Sure.
Multiple times. So is that something you do as well? It sounds like.
I have this weird thing where I don't like to fall asleep to a movie. I feel like I'm doing it a disservice. And which is a psychotic thing.
I thank you.
So if I start to drowse, I will turn it off so I can finish it properly at another time.
So respectful. And it's that kind of respect for humanity and creative work and politics that you bring to your role as vice president of production for Crooked Media. Can you talk about what the mission statement of Crooked Media is and what you do?
Yeah. So Crooked Media, if you don't know, is a podcast digital media company started by 3 of Obama's former speechwriters, Jon Favreau, Tommy Vitor, and John Lovett. In basically when Trump got elected in 2016, they started a show called Pod Save America, which was, very big in voicing the concerns of, I'd like to say, a vast majority of Americans who did not like the way things were going and needed some place to talk out their feelings.
Certainly the audience of this podcast.
Certainly.
So we are in a safe space, yes.
Yes. So in addition to Pod Save America, we have a stable about 20 other shows that go out either weekly or in limited runs. And I oversee the audio and video production of those shows, and then also help out as much as I can with our political arm, which is called Vote Save America, which does the hard work of getting volunteers into the right places during campaign season, putting donations where they're needed most, and generally helping people fill out their ballot, know where they can vote, know how to get registered, all that good stuff. So it's a busy time.
Yeah, I thank you for finding an hour to talk about nonsense with a very nonsensical person.
It's welcome.
So if we go alphabetically, can you explain to everybody, starting with someone named Anthony Adams, just hypothetically, how he can vote? And just go through everybody. Just
every single person.
everybody. Yeah. You just said you did that. So
Yeah, we can do that. If you go to votesaveamerica.com, there will be a find your ballot tool, and you can type in your zip code. It's going to show you what's on your ballot, give some recommendations if you're unsure about certain races of where candidates lean, what positions are. It puts things into plain language, which is really
does it do
helpful.
measures as well? Because those
Yes.
measures are so tricky, I
Yes,
find.
and they're written intentionally tricky.
Correct.
So, and if it doesn't have, just because that does get into the weeds, I also recommend for people to always look up your state and then progressive or city. So like Los Angeles progressive ballot.
Yes.
And you will find a ton of great resources online that will help you sort of sift through the mountain of info you need to get through to fill out those ballots.
Or I'm assuming it's cool. All my listeners can call you at.
Yes.
I was going to start reading your number, but I couldn't access it quick enough. I don't have the kind of technology that James Bond has.
I mean, don't we wish?
Right? So when I discovered that you were a James Bond freak,
Uh-huh.
you very quickly said your favorite is
On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
I was going to say God Save the Queen. I don't know if that's a movie.
It's not, but it should be. That's the next reboot.
So I assumed that's what we would be watching, but you spun it around and you chose, this is the only time I'm going to do this, Goldfinger.
Exactly. Oh, and beautifully done, by the way.
Shirley Bassey brings
God,
it.
God bless her.
What made you choose Goldfinger of all the Bond movies?
So I'm not going to lie, I agonized over this decision.
And that's always my goal.
Because there's about, there's 25 films in the official series. And I think there are legitimately at least 10 legitimate answers of where someone should start if they're coming into it completely fresh, which you are, correct? You've never sat down and watched one of these start to finish.
Correct.
Okay. Because what's tricky is when you bring in someone new nowadays, it usually takes something like Daniel Craig's first film, Casino Royale, which naturally plays up to a lot of modern audience tendencies and taste.
Sure.
And it's a great place to start. Don't get me wrong. But why I ultimately picked Goldfinger is it's not even the first film. It's actually the third in the series.
Third film. I have Googled too, Matt.
Good. But it is the first film where I feel like all of the elements really came together to create what's known as sort of the cinematic James Bond. The first two films, Dr. No and From Russia with Love, stick really close to their sort of literary source material. They're a little more serious. They're great films, but Goldfinger is really, when you want to describe to someone what James Bond is,
yes,
Goldfinger has it all.
It typifies that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so first of all, the original author, that is Sir Ian Fleming. Do I have that
correct? Yep.
From Crossword Puzzles, I know shit. And for those of you who are like me and you're like, Goldfinger, what's that all about? This is what Wikipedia says. Goldfinger is a James Bond movie in which Bond investigates gold magnate Auric Goldfinger, who is suspected of smuggling England's gold reserves. Bond eventually gets closer to Goldfinger and becomes part of his outrageous scheme to rob Fort Knox of its gold. Goldfinger's greed is exceeded only by his disrespect for human life. Bond, armed with his specially equipped Aston Martin, a lot of questions, must stop Goldfinger's plan to raid Fort Knox and obliterate the world's economy. There it is.
There it is. There it is. I feel like they got one thing wrong.
I should have said based on a true story.
It is a true story for sure.
Yeah.
But it goes a step further. He's not just trying to take the gold. He's trying to set off a nuclear weapon inside Fort Knox to destroy the gold to make his gold more worthwhile.
Wow. He's an a-hole.
A total dick.
Going out on a limb.
I mean, he's German. Played
by a 55 to 60-year-old Michael Rappaport. Not looking good.
He's had better days.
Right?
Truly.
It's my favorite game. Like each actor is somebody else had a love child with somebody else. So please tolerate that.
Of course.
So do you have a memory of when you first saw Goldfinger? And am I oh everybody who's listening, Jolene just made a cameo. She's the cutest dog in the whole world, and she just poked her
Hi.
little head up into the screen. I love her so much. Okay. Did your dad show this to you, or how did you sit down and watch Goldfinger? Do you remember how old you were? Was it on Betamax or VHS or Laserdisc? Set the scene.
Yes, of course. So growing up in the 80s and 90s, and maybe you can relate to this too, even before I had seen a James Bond film, you were just aware of it in the culture. You knew James Bond was sort of the epitome of cool and sexy and badass women and great music. And it was just sort of in the pop culture air.
Sure.
And if you were tied in at all, you were aware of it and sort of knew what it was about.
It's my guess if you were ever in a wedding party, all the ushers and groomsmen were going Bond, James Bond, when they put on their tuxedos.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And then ordering a martini shaken, not stirred.
Yes.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
So I became aware of it at a probably way too young age. But I was sitting home one night with my dad, and TBS used to do 7 days of 007.
Oh.
Where they would just run the films sort of on loop over and over. And we stumbled upon what I think was the last 30-ish minutes of Dr. No.
Okay.
And we sort of stopped and watched it together. And I was probably 5 or 6 at the time.
Oh.
And it's the most sort of action-packed part of the film. Like Bond and Dr. No end up in this fight of boiling acid. And I was in immediately.
Yeah.
And from then on, I was locked into TBS when they would do these marathons. I would fire up the VCR, hit record, and capture as many of them as I could. And when I did have enough allowance money saved up, I would go to Walmart or Target and buy the VHS copies to have it, so I didn't have the commercials anymore.
Sure.
Because that was too much.
Right.
The first time I watched Goldfinger, though, would have been in that like sort of initial capturing of the films. And it really did speak to me even then of just, oh, this is fun. There's a henchman with a razor-bladed bowler hat who can chop people's heads off. The car had gadgets, a machine gun welding, granny, women painted gold. Like, I was in. It was great.
Yeah. And I talked about this when I talked about The Last Starfighter last week, but it is wish fulfillment.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? That's why we watch movies, to escape and think, oh, I wish I could live on that beautiful island or marry that beautiful person or, drive that amazing car.
Absolutely. And like as a kid in really small town Iowa, where nothing was exciting going on, my view was essentially cornfields. To be able to pop into these movies, and each one takes you to maybe 3 or 4 or even more different countries, and it's beautifully shot in all of these places. It got me really interested in geography and traveling, and it sort of gave me the travel bug that I have now today still, which is, I love it.
That's cool. I mean, I want to start at the beginning because my only exposure to James Bond is Austin Powers, which I know by heart.
Yep.
So when the movie starts with a nebulous, it looks like silos and they're in a weird headquarters of bad guys doing something and he's sneaking around. My immediate thought was, oh, Austin Powers barely did a parody of James Bond. It was
it's a copy.
It's a copy. It just had a few more fart jokes.
Yep.
But it was essentially a James Bond movie.
Absolutely.
I never knew that. I mean, I never knew that this was so over the top.
Oh, absolutely. And Goldfinger is still even like tame by some of the...
You're kidding. I thought this one was pretty corny.
Oh, no. 2 movies later, there is a hollowed out volcano lair.
Oh, Oh, of course there is. Which
Later
one's
on,
that?
that's You Only Live Twice.
Yep.
In Moonraker, James Bond actually does go into space. It's like it gets very silly. There's space lasers and villains with metal teeth that can, bite your jugular, and it's got it all.
Oh my God. I see. And I thought the bowler hat in Austin Powers, I thought that was a joke.
Nope.
And I thought that was really funny, but that's really what this is. Okay, so that was my first impression was, holy crap, I'm watching an Austin Powers.
Absolutely.
And this is all before the credits. What was that location he blew up in the beginning?
I believe it's just a drug heroin smuggling place. It doesn't matter. It's bad guys. Yeah. And it needed to go.
Okay. And then, of course, he blows up this thing, and then he goes to kiss a lady. And the way they were kissing, like that 1960s, we just smush our mouths and we move our heads until the director says stop. I was laughing so hard. It's so awkward. And then a bad guy sneaks in, and he uses that lady as a human shield.
She set him up, She had it coming.
Well, I'm sorry. He used her as a human shield. And I'm not exaggerating that at all. He just puts her in harm's way and lets her take the hit.
That is true.
Yes. I was astounded because I thought James Bond was a gentleman.
He tries, but sometimes the work is tough.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you hear Jolene?
Oh God, yes.
Okay, let me try to see what she's up to right now. Sorry.
I don't care. She's a delight. So
okay, she seems to want into her crate. Let me.
Miss Toots, what do you need?
Hi, Pete. We can cut all the Jolene stuff, please. Pete, do you want me to sing more Goldfinger to you? Goldfinger. Okay. And we're back. So all of that happened. Bad guy blow up, human shield, beating up the guy before the opening credits. It just starts off with a bang.
And that's really the first time this happened in the series, and it becomes a series sort of template. Is that each film opens up with a sort of unrelated to the plot shenanigans that is just there to get you into the proceedings, start things off with a bang.
Set the tone. Yeah.
Yeah. And then get into an amazing song.
The song is amazing. I mean, I do know those songs.
Okay, good.
Through the years. I mean, I'm when I was a kid, For Your Eyes Only was the big hit.
Oh.
I'm a lot older than you. And I would sing that song like my life depended on it.
A bop. Sheena Easton, man.
Ooh.
What's she doing today?
That's a bonus pod. We'll do a whole deep dive.
Sheena Easton. We need that.
Right. So then immediately after the opening credits, which are exquisite and sexy and get you into it in the song and Shirley Bassey, then all of a sudden it's like broad daylight, Miami, a pool, and there's a guy filling James Bond in. And I was like, who the F is this guy? Is he from other movies?
He is, but not that actor. So even you'd have to really be paying attention. The character of Felix Leiter is in Dr. No, the first film, but played by someone else.
Okay.
So you kind of just go with it. He's a friend.
Okay, which I did, but it's a little confusing. I mean, and maybe there was a line about, since you're my superior at the firm, but I didn't hear anything. I just thought,
no, there's not.
Okay. I love when I'm right. Now, we are going to get right into Sean Connery here.
Please.
Because here he is in Miami, and men were built so differently back then. I marvel at how wide they were, and brawny and stocky, and just such a different body type from what
100%
expectations are now. But did you want to be Sean Connery, or did you want to bang Sean Connery?
Both. I think
let's you want to lay down on the couch and let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's get to it.
Could get intense.
And obviously circling back to growing up small town Iowa, I was not exposed to a lot of queer lifestyles or role models, I should say. And so, from a lot of my formative years watching Sean Connery, I didn't know that I wanted to do him. And I, sort of pawned it off as, oh, I want to be him. That would be so cool. But clearly I want to do him.
Yes.
Like, has anyone looked that good? Oh. Especially when he's in the gray suit later. My God.
Matt, I don't want to pick a fight, but I'm not a fan.
Really?
Not at all.
Like, just doesn't do it for you?
Never has, never will.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Why?
I find him very flat and one note as an actor. I've not been a fan as an actor. And
we're not talking about acting.
We are not talking about acting. But then, look, I don't want to, they say don't meet your heroes. So I might tell you something that you've never heard and you're going to, but he was quoted as saying it's okay to smack women around.
Ugh.
His wife.
Yeah.
So
that's not good.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So, but I'm also, James Bond is too slick. I mean, Paul Buckman from Mad About You is my dream type. Paul Rudd.
Okay.
That's where I go.
Okay.
So I don't want somebody slick and suave and perfect. I want goofy, neurotic, hot and sexy like my husband. He listens, I have to say this. At least once an episode.
Hi, Jerry.
Yeah. It gets gross in this house. But yeah, so I don't know. James Bond is to me. He's a turnoff. And Sean Connery is lumped in with that.
Fair.
I might have liked Pierce Brosnan. I've never seen him as James Bond, but he's so charming and handsome.
Yeah, you'd probably be into that. I'd be curious to get your take on Roger Moore. Because he's definitely the goofier era.
Uh-huh.
And does not take himself seriously at all. It's still very suave, but I think that could maybe be up your alley.
Okay. Just a side note, my sister's name is Allie and she hates that expression. So okay, so it's important for me to know that you wanted to bang him, but maybe weren't aware of that. So you wanted to be him.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
Yes.
He immediately meets a lady and immediately invades her personal space, way too close for my liking. And I imagine that they all smelled like booze and cigarettes, and it was just 100%. Like, blah. And they get it on. And then she dies.
She's die.
Cold.
Yes.
I gasped.
What a way to go.
I gasped.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I thought I was ridiculous.
It's horrifying.
I don't know. He comes back in the bedroom and there she is on the bed, splayed and totally gold head to toe.
Yep. What a way to go.
And so he spray paints people and they suffocate because their pores can't breathe?
Exactly. Which is a really fucked up way to die.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also noted in that scene, am I crazy? Did someone come and knock him out?
Yes, that was Odd Job.
Okay. I noticed in this movie, it's quite easy to knock someone out.
One hit. That's all it takes.
It could have been a drinking game. How many times does someone get knocked out in this movie?
I'm going to do that next time I watch.
It's a lot.
It is, isn't it?
I hope you get very drunk and I hope you think of me.
I will. I'll call you.
Thank you.
And we'll do a second episode. Yeah. Okay.
Let's do it for a Roger Moore one.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yes. Because just every 5 seconds, somebody was getting conked on the head and passing out. It was unbelievable.
We don't have a time for whole fist fights. Just get to it.
Right. And then we meet Moneypenny because somehow he's just back at HQ. Right? Just with the boss hanging out. And Moneypenny is a name I've heard from living in the world.
Of course.
But she is horny for Bond.
Oh, so thirsty. Like in the annals of movie characters, maybe no one's thirstier than Moneypenny.
Which I did not know. You
Yeah.
would think it would be Pussy Galore, but we'll get there. Uh,
Well, yeah, we'll talk about her.
is Moneypenny, I know she's in a bunch of them,
She's
right?
in every film.
And how many actresses?
It is so through 85, it was all this first actress, Lois Maxwell. So she does
Really?
it for the first 15 films.
So
Or
in
no,
85, that must have been Timothy
she was an old.
Dalton?
85 was the last Roger Moore film.
Okay, so age appropriate.
And then yes, so they finally had some parody there. And then in 87 it switched to an actress named Caroline Bliss, who was with Timothy Dalton for his 2 films.
Uh-huh.
And then Samantha Bond was Pierce Brosnan's Moneypenny. And
Okay.
you may have
Her
seen
last
her.
her last
Did
name
you?
is really Bond?
Yes, which is incredible, right? Did you ever
Really?
watch Downton Abbey?
Yes.
She was the sister of the dowager, the
Maggie's
aunt. Yes, the aunt who would
Oh, I love
come.
that actress. Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about. I love her so much. Wait, I'm gonna
Yes,
get her name. So wait, she was which Bond? Everyone at home is screaming because they know and I don't.
Samantha Bond. Sorry.
Oh, her name is Samantha Bond.
Yep.
Oh, then it might not be the person I'm thinking of. Hold on. It is most definitely not the person I'm thinking of. I don't like this lady at all.
You hated her?
No, I don't know who she is.
Her character on Downton
Okay.
Abbey was.
I can see her, yeah.
Okay.
I know who you're talking about now. I thought it was the woman from the Ricky Gervais show, Afterlife. What's her name? That I
Oh,
love so much. I
yeah,
love
not
so,
her.
so much. Okay.
And then
Okay.
Naomi Harris is
Oh,
Moneypenny in the Daniel Craig era,
oh,
and
she's
she's
a
fantastic.
very fierce actress. Okay.
Yes.
I know her. So, yeah, I was fascinated by Moneypenny just putting it out there. Just-
No secret. She
and are
wants it.
these all code names, I'm assuming? Moneypenny must be a code name, no?
I don't think so.
And are they MI5?
MI6.
MI6, a
Yes.
fictitious,
Yep.
even more super secretive version of MI5.
Exactly. Just a level deeper.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, I think it was at this point that a bunch of old white men sat around a table and drank brandy and smoked cigars and talked and talked and talked and talked.
Yep. Correct.
And I said to Jer, I'm not following. And I know they're setting up the plot for the whole thing because I heard blah, 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 Goldfinger, blah, blah, blah,
Uh-huh.
weapons. But I didn't follow any of it. And he said he doesn't either, and it doesn't affect your enjoyment of the movie. Do you, if I asked you in 30 seconds or less, could you tell me what that conversation was about? Do you really follow it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're essentially talking
I'm not
about.
Groot. I'm so much smarter than you and Jer. Heather.
Basically, it's M and James Bond talking to the gold expert, as it were, of MI6, and basically getting over the fact that Goldfinger has been hoarding and collecting Nazi gold from around Europe, and they need James Bond to go find out why. And they get into some details of, the element of gold, like the physical properties, and it gives James a chance to show off his intellect and that he's an expert in all things,
Okay.
which you'll find is a thing that happens in every movie. He knows how to operate every vehicle. He has
Sure.
a deep knowledge of, wine vintages, brandy vintages, which I think he even talks about in that scene.
Yeah.
And just an expert in literally every field, which is, of course, ridiculous, but it is what it is.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's cool when you just let go and
Yeah.
your suspension of disbelief. Why not? He's an expert. Got it.
Yep. Exactly. He's the best. That's why.
Okay. So then now we're in the mission. We're in excitement time. So he goes to get his gadgets, which
Yes.
I also is one of my favorite scenes from the only other thing I know, which is the movie Spy, the Paul Feig movie starring Melissa McCarthy.
Yes.
Fan? Not a fan?
I only saw it the once. It didn't leave a big impact on me.
Okay. I love it. And when she's
Okay.
getting all her supplies, they're like, embarrassing middle-aged lady, like, "This is your diuretic." And she's like, "Ooh, is it really this?" And they're like, "No, it's a diuretic." Like, everything is just so embarrassing for her.
Uh-huh.
But he gets his car,
Yes.
and it's he says, "Where's my Bentley?" Right?
Yeah.
I thought he always drove an Aston Martin. I was shocked. This was
In yeah.
eye-opening.
Yeah. This is the first like official car he has in the films. I think he has a personal Bentley as a character,
Okay.
and apparently they took it away from him, which is,
Okay.
I think, concerning. But I think he traded up because I think this Aston Martin DB5 is maybe the most gorgeous car in film history. Like,
You've never seen Back to the Future and the DeLorean? Okay.
is that
I don't
gorgeous?
I'm not a car person at all.
Yeah, I'm typically not either, but this, I would probably give up a couple years of my life to have that car.
What?
Yes.
That is not an okay thing to say.
But it's so beautiful.
I feel like I'm really getting to know the dark side of Matthew. I don't care for that at all. A couple years of your life for a car?
Well, if I'm living to like 100.
You just want the ejector seat for Patrick.
I do. I just launch him right out.
I love that he's like, "Yes, this is your automobile. It comes with an ejector seat. Just push this button." And I'm like, "I'm sure we won't see that."
No, couldn't possibly.
That's never going to come back up.
That's just tossing that out there.
So yeah, so now he's all geared up. He's got everything. He's ready to go, and they race for the hot excitement of the longest golf sequence I have ever witnessed. The only golf sequence I've ever witnessed.
Yeah, it's not a sport you usually see in movies.
How do they make golf more boring than golf?
But is it boring?
It was to me.
No. So this is actually another trope of the series, in that there's almost always a scene where Bond and the villain match wits somehow in some type of game. Sometimes it's in a casino. Sometimes it's here,
Chess?
like on a golf course. Yes.
I'm picturing chess.
Chess is a factor in From Russia with Love, but James never plays it with anyone. Yeah.
Now I want to think of all the games. Poker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if they played Uno in one?
Uno, right? Rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
An intense Rochambeau match.
Backgammon features in Octopussy.
Oh, you're being serious.
I am dead serious.
Wow.
There's a backgammon scene in Octopussy.
Riveting. I mean, they are banking so much on the charm of James Bond.
100%.
Right? So people will tolerate them just standing around a golf green for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Saying things like, "Just wait. Nope, not yet." I mean, it was so boring. That scene.
Well, and Goldfinger's cheating, and so we're establishing him as just more of an asshole, even though we already knew that because he spray painted a woman gold.
Yeah, cheating at golf, not a big deal once you've killed a woman and you plan to blow up Fort Knox.
Exactly.
So I could have done without the golf. Like, to me, this movie was 75% really fun eye rolls. Like, oh God, that's so over the top. Oh God, that's hilarious. Really fun. And then there was 25% of golf that I was rolling my eyes. Golf and brandy and cigars,
Yeah, you really got to just push through those bits.
But I also wonder, coming from my lens now, where we are used to action and we don't really have movies where people sit around talking and planning and golfing as much. And that is fine by me. I'm just a East Coast, let's just get to it person.
Right. It was very much, and in the day, I think you mentioned it earlier, how quickly he moved from, Miami Beach to the MI6 headquarters in London, and how just quickly it moves. That was very revolutionary at the time for things just to be like boom, ba boom, ba boom. So for audiences of the 60s, this movie is moving like gangbusters.
Oh, okay.
And so even in that golf scene, which, yeah, it doesn't add a ton in terms of plot, I think it really was just a chance for people to soak in and get to know these characters, even though we already know James Bond
Right.
and we already know Goldfinger's a son of a bitch. So,
Right.
yeah.
It would have made more sense in the first one if we needed to really understand Bond.
Right, exactly.
Now we're in the third movie.
Yeah, he's pretty well established.
Who do I write? Do I write to the Broccoli's directly and say, can we
Yes.
cut that?
Let's call it Barbara.
Trim
see
up
what
the
she...
golf sequence. Are they open to notes?
Oh, yeah, especially. Yeah.
Great.
60 years later, it's fine.
Yeah, great. So they get through the golf, and then maybe I went out of... No, he hops in the car where he's got a GPS tracker.
Yes.
1964.
So ahead of its time.
Do you think that technology really existed, or do you think this came from their brains? And
I think they pulled it out of their ass. He's got that little thing in his shoe that he, sticks on the car, and and they were just like, yeah, he'll be able to follow this on a map. And my favorite thing is the little map that pops up on his dashboard, and you can tell it's like a scrolling thing. Like, how much map they got in there?
I know. I mean, it is antiquated and charming, but the idea of a GPS tracker is way ahead of its time.
Yeah, I mean, to my knowledge, I've read a lot of books about James Bond and the making of films. I've never once seen any evidence that it's something that existed at the time. So I think their imaginations were just firing on all cylinders there.
I mean, that's the type of stuff that a 6-year-old would go, whoa, right?
Yep,
exactly. They know where that car is and they can follow them. And I mean, that is cool stuff.
Yeah, it allows him to like leisurely fly to Switzerland to follow them. He's not racing to do it. He can just like get on his own plane and then catch up. And
wait, that was my other question. How did he have his car in Switzerland?
When he goes to that airport, when he talks to the guy at the airport, they get him on a flight that also flew his plane.
Oh, I missed that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's not just flying coach and taking one bag, No.
A lot of flying in this movie too.
Oh yeah, they make tracks.
A lot of bad choices while flying. We're going to get there. Okay, so now he's racing through the beautiful mountainside, and he sees a beautiful woman, and she tries to run him off the road and shoot him.
Yep.
That's why women shouldn't drive.
Exactly.
I'll stand by it. And then he finally, of course, charms her and gets to know her. And she is the sister of the lady who died from the gold.
Yep.
Even though they have distinctly different accents.
Maybe they grew up split up. Their parents divorced and went separate ways. It was a parent trap situation.
So you said in the beginning there were only 25 actual movies in the sequence, and then you implied that there were spin-offs or other things.
Yes.
Are there?
There are.
Certainly not about these two sisters. These two dead sisters who had very different accents. And
can you imagine? I need a spin-off of the Masterson sisters.
Yeah.
But yes, there is. Casino Royale was originally owned by a different film studio. They had the rights to it. And in 1967, they released a spoof version of it. And this was at the height of the official James Bond craze. And it stars Peter Sellers and Woody Allen and Orson Welles. And it's an insane movie.
Okay.
It has 5 different directors. Clearly, none of them talk to each other. And it's nuts. And then there's another film, the 4th film in the James Bond series, Thunderball. The original screenwriter of that had this very long, contentious battle over him having the rights to the story. And at one point in the 80s, he was at least able to cobble enough legal ability to make a competing film at a different studio, which they lured Sean Connery back for, which is called Never Say Never Again.
Oh, I've heard of that one. That's not a Bond movie?
It's not enough in the official series, no.
Oh.
Yeah. So it came out in 1983. There were 2 James Bond movies. Never Say Never Again from this other studio, and then the official entry, Octopussy, which stars Roger Moore.
Roger Moore. Yeah.
Yeah, so it
Oh,
was the Battle of the Bonds.
you are blowing my mind. I didn't know any of this.
Yes, it's very juicy.
Truly. Now,
Hmm.
as I said, I was not familiar with any James Bond, and I lied when I said only Austin Powers. Because as a kid, I watched Get Smart, and then I
Ah,
watched Inspector Gadget.
yep,
So much of it was reminiscent of that too. When you said the thingy in the shoe, I was like,
yep,
right, like Get Smart.
yeah.
Um, so I mean, but again, even though those were comedies, they were tonally so close to this.
Hmm.
So, is it fair to laugh when he goes into his shoe and gets a little thing and sticks it on the car and all of a sudden it works? Like, did people go, "Oh my god, it was in his shoe," or was it like, "No, that's cool as shit. Nobody, don't laugh at that. This is serious."
I think laughing is totally fine. I have vivid memories of the first time I watched Thunderball. My dad and my uncle, and they had had a few, I think, but they started watching it with me, and they were cackling like
Okay,
from start to finish.
yeah,
And I think it's expected. It's fun. It's clearly a series that, for the most part, does not take itself seriously at all. There's
yeah.
always the tongue is very firmly in cheek. There's always a wink. Um,
There's always a laser coming at a crotch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is not meant to be serious stuff.
Okay.
And so
Thank
laughing
God.
is encouraged and fun.
Okay. So it hit me halfway what really I think is the most accurate ripoff of all. When the
Hmm.
laser was coming at the crotch,
Yep.
it's Batman, the old 1960s Adam
Oh
West
yeah.
Batman series.
Yep.
And I used to watch that. And that, I
Yep.
mean, I didn't realize that was such a James Bond. I mean, maybe ripoff is not a kind word, but they would
Yeah.
always leave the room.
Yep.
I expect you to die. And then
Such a
they would
great
leave the
line.
room,
Yep.
which is, yeah, it's a fantastic line. And they use it in Austin Powers about
Yep.
like, I'm going to make this speech and then I'm going to leave and just trust that everything goes
Goes to
according to
plan. Yep.
plan. But uh, I couldn't believe the music, the supervillains, even I'm going to go on a limb, the sexual tension between Bond and all the women was like, I remember Julie Newmar and Adam West having
Yep.
that kind of heat
Oh
between them
yeah.
all the time.
Yep.
So,
Like everyone wanted to sleep with him at any given moment. And
yeah,
that's just what you sign up for.
you mean Batman?
Both.
Both. Well, frankly, and I don't know how many of the episodes of Make Me a Nerd you've listened to, but I wanted to sleep with Robin.
Oh, I same, honestly.
Right?
Yeah, I agree. I would rather have Robin than Batman in that
Oh,
scenario.
Matt, that just bonded us for life. That just James bonded us for life,
Burt Ward, man. He was a
right?
cutie.
He was such a cutie. That's more my
Yeah.
type than the Adam West.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so okay, so now I'm getting through the plot because I have so many more observations and questions, and I could talk about this forever.
Same.
So, okay. First of all, I want to fly in a private plane like that. It was amazing, the first private plane. Um, then he goes to the bathroom, which was so funny and charming because they've put peepholes in the bathroom so they could keep an eye on him.
It's so many of them.
So many peepholes. So there's a guard watching, and she lets him go in the bathroom.
Yep.
It's a she, right?
Yep.
Yes. And then she's looking in the peephole, and he ducks down, and she's like, "Where did he go? I must go in after him." He literally ducked down, lady. He just ducked.
He's just down there.
There's no there's no escape hatch. What is wrong with these villains?
They didn't go to school.
Oh my god. I thought that was so funny, and that he accidentally blocked a couple of the peepholes and intentionally blocked other ones. I was so charmed by that whole sequence.
Yeah, it's great.
But I often wonder this about henchmen and guards and in this case bespectacled doctors and scientists who turn to the dark side. Why?
Yeah.
So many,
Like, was the pay good?
right?
What are the benefits?
Were they morally corrupt to start? I'm trying not to get political, but it's reminding me of politics these days.
Amen.
Self over the greater good. But you're a respectable doctor. Why are you working for Goldfinger?
Exactly.
To develop a poison to knock out all the guards at Fort Knox. What's wrong with you? Where is your mother?
She would be so ashamed.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, I often wonder that about henchmen.
Yeah. There's a couple great deleted scenes. I don't know if you've ever seen on Austin Powers.
Oh,
where
Austin Powers, I'm sure. Yeah.
where they show like the henchman who gets run over by the steamroller.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scene where his wife gets the call
Okay.
and she has to tell their son. I love the backstory of these like inconsequential, totally unrealistic characters that
Right. How do you become a henchman?
write that script.
I might. It's like, what were your goals growing up? You wanted to be very quiet and stand beside someone
Mm-hmm.
and have nothing to do except be violent on occasion.
But only when told.
But when told.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And speaking of henchmen, how does Goldfinger communicate with Oddjob? Oddjob does not speak any English.
I've always assumed he understands English, but just doesn't speak.
Okay.
I can't back that up with facts.
All right. I'm
But
gonna need to
that's what I've told myself. Because they refer to him as mute at one point.
Oh, I missed that.
So I think that's it.
Okay.
It's just that simple.
I just thought of a new drinking game for anyone listening to this.
Yes.
Anytime Mandy says, "Oh, I must have missed that,"
Be wasted.
drink up. I'm a reasonably intelligent person, but I lose focus sometimes.
It happens.
What were we
We're all-
talking about? Were we talking
Henchman.
about cats? Yay, I love cats.
I have a dog here.
I know. Oh God, I know.
She's drunk.
So he's on the plane. I'm still on the plane,
I love the plane.
and the pilot is Pussy Galore.
Yes.
Did pussy mean the same thing in the 60s? And if so, how did they get away with that with standards and practices?
It was tough. I know there was an issue with putting her name on the poster or even in the trailers as Pussy Galore was tricky. It made it through. The film is only rated PG, mind you. But it kind of added that naughty element that I think just added to the allure of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I get that, but
Yeah.
it's quite shocking. And when you were 6, you thought that was a cat, right? You didn't have any association.
I even then knew.
I'm going to need your parents' phone number.
Ken
I'm
and Kathy
worried you're
did
gonna
a
become a
terrible
henchman.
job.
Yeah.
I'm on that path, honestly.
Yeah. Wow. So you had like that, oh, they're saying a bad word
Mhm.
feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I was
I
like,
even have that feeling now. And
oh yeah.
yeah.
Till to this day, it's like, oh, that's an actual thing.
Yep.
But yeah, it's in the novel as well. Her name is Pussy Galore, where she is an avowed lesbian in the book.
Oh. Well, that don't stop James Bond.
It sure
He
doesn't.
could sleep with
He
any
can-
woman.
He can turn him.
Yes,
he's
he
just-
can.
He's a one-man conversion therapy machine.
Oh, bless his heart. We're going to get to that. So he comes out of the bathroom on the plane
Mhm.
and he does the cardinal sin. And I screamed at the TV, you don't accept a drink from the bad guys,
Mm-mm.
right?
Don't. You shouldn't.
Could have been a Mickey Finn cocktail. We don't know. Me and my topical references. But you don't take a drink from the bad guy. What's he doing? Ugh.
I mean, I think he's an alcoholic, though, so he cannot resist.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
So he clearly has a
Well,
drinking
now
problem.
A lot of drinking in the movie.
Oh, yeah. A lot of booze.
They order mint juleps, and the guy basically turns around in a circle, and there's one on his tray. It's
Yes.
the fastest mint julep I've ever seen. And Bond orders it with like picky requests, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He has very specific needs for his food and drink.
Yes.
In the books, it will spend like a whole page describing his breakfast.
Oh, I like that.
You would. You would.
I like that kind of detail.
In literally in every book.
Yeah.
Ian Fleming goes to such great lengths to describe breakfast. He loves it. It is so vivid you can taste it.
All right.
With cigarettes.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And a silk robe.
Yes.
Okay. So after the mint julep, now we're in the home stretch. Now we're going to Fort Knox.
Yes.
And I wrote, yet again, I'm not following the plot that well, but I'm not sweating the small stuff. I'm staying zoomed out, which I'm just learning helps me tremendously in all things.
Sure.
Not just all things nerd, but
just like,
you know, if I'm watching a Housewives reunion and I don't understand why two of them hate each other, I just go with it.
Yeah.
Like
you don't need to know.
They just do. And they're going to repeat themselves a lot.
Yep.
It's all fine.
And they'll probably give you a clip of it too, just to catch you up.
They might, which God love them.
Yeah.
Okay, so I lied. We're not in the home stretch because he has to make out with Pussy Galore, right? They hook up before they go to.
Yes.
Was that your Sean Connery? That was delightful.
Yes, that was.
Hear it again.
Pussy.
That's good.
I've been working on it for 30 years.
Yes. So they're in the barn and they wrestle and it turns into hooking up. Did Harvey Weinstein produce this movie?
I think he was on that scene. He came in for that day specifically. Yes, it is of its time, that scene. Woof.
Oh, is it rapey?
Woof, woof.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Even though I know it was a different time, blah, blah, blah. It's like I cringed to watch him force himself on her over and over until she caves. And the way she caves just encourages young men out there to think they really want it. They want it bad. You just got to force it.
Yep. Yeah, it's not great.
And how I'm assuming Daniel Craig is not doing this.
No, that practice pretty much stops after this. There are a couple more instances, but this is the worst version of that in honestly the whole series.
Okay. Good choice for me, Matt. Oh my God. What's the most triggering, upsetting thing I could ask Mandy to watch? No, I'm fine with it, but I can't let it pass.
No, nor should you.
Yes. So now they're off to the races. They're on their way to Fort Knox and they bring James Bond with them.
Yes.
And I wrote, why the hell is he there? And then I realized they wanted to frame him, right? They were going to handcuff him to something and make it look like he blew up the. Oh,
I think.
No, I'm wrong.
I don't think you're entirely wrong. I do think with him handcuffed to a nuclear bomb, there's not going to be much left.
So they were just trying to kill him and they wanted to do it there rather than just shoot him and then go
right.
Fort Knox.
Because we can't do that.
Right.
That's foolish.
I mean, that's some of the eye rolling that's fun.
Exactly.
I don't look down on that at all. It's like, yeah, you want to bring him so that he can suffer and watch you guys carry out your plan. Great. Are the new ones with, I'm saying Daniel Craig and God willing. Oh, I think I heard who it was and I didn't like the choice. The new one.
Nothing's confirmed.
Okay. Yeah. I want Henry Golding.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, he'd be good.
Let's just take a moment and think about him in a tuxedo doing anything.
Yeah. I'm into that.
So beautiful. Okay, that's who I want, but no one's taking my calls. But tonally, are the movies still this goofy and outlandish, or have they gotten slick and sexy and full of real violence and action?
It honestly, it's a bit of a roller coaster.
Take me through it.
What tends to happen is, we talked a little bit about the first two films being pretty grounded, really close to the source material. With Goldfinger, it starts to creep up until we get to a film like You Only Live Twice with the hollowed out volcano, stealing rockets, and mini helicopters. And then they go, oh, we've maybe pushed this too far. And then they course correct And then the film that follows that is my personal favorite, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is again then very grounded, a little more serious, and it'll start ramping up there, and then it just keeps going throughout the 25 films like that. The Pierce Brosnan era ended in a totally absurd. There is, because it starts off very fresh out of the Cold War, serious spy versus spy, GoldenEye story, and then by the time we get to his fourth film, Die Another Day, there is an ice palace that is getting melted by a space laser, and he windsurfs on a piece of a car. It's ridiculous. He has an invisible car in that one.
Fantastic, yes.
And so then that era ends, and we come back to Daniel Craig, which is very... And he pretty much even keeled it throughout his whole run with a few fantastical elements, but for the most part, it's very grounded, very serious, sexy, dramatic. The things I think modern audiences want, even though I would argue that those films probably more often than not fall on the too serious side.
Yeah.
Because I do think there's a huge element of what makes the James Bond films so fun is that they are fun. And
I would agree. They're a little outlandish. They're a little tongue in cheek. You can't lose the tongue in cheek, or
exactly.
Then it's just, you know, I can't think of another action movie because I've never seen them, but The Matrix or something. Like it just becomes something very serious and dark.
Yes.
And that's not what the spirit of Bond should be, I don't think.
Exactly. Like it should still be winking at you a little bit. Even, and that doesn't mean you can't tell dramatic stories with compelling characters, but let's not be so dour about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, if we want to reach out to Barbara Broccoli, where we can find her, I'm assuming at
babs@gmail.com.
Yeah. I'm going to try that.
Please.
Matt, our discussion is over, if you can believe it. Do you have any parting thoughts or important observations that we missed?
I mean, we did not talk about Goldfinger ultimately getting sucked out of an airplane window.
He sure did.
Which is an image that I think will haunt me for the rest of my days because it is so bizarre to look at.
Yes. Yeah, if the window looks tiny and you're like, oh, well, there's no fear of, there it goes.
That man goes through it somehow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Woof.
Like how a mouse can go under a door.
Exactly. How do they do it?
How do they do it? Well, my wonderful friend, I need to do my business. Okay. Here we go. Make Me a Nerd is a production of True Story FM, engineering by the peerless Pete Wright, we'll call him. Wonderstruck by Jane and the Boy is the theme song, and you could get to me on socials at Mandy_Kaplan_Clavens, both with K's. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please leave me a 5-star review and reach out, ask questions, contribute, participate. It's a back and forth. You can do it on socials. You can do it on Apple. And if you really want to participate, I would be forever grateful if you would go to makemeanerd.com and hit that join button. You will get your episodes early and ad-free and other extra fun content as well. Matt, are you wanting the world to reach out to you on socials, or you want to continue this conversation with everybody?
Sure. I'm happy to. Always happy to talk about James Bond or anything geeky. My geek experiences are vast and wide. So hit me up. I'm on all socials at Matt DeGroat on them.
So I've been saying your name wrong for years.
Everybody does. I don't even notice it anymore.
So he spells it MattDegroot.
Yeah.
And then you say DeGroat.
Yep. I can't tell you why or how.
Pete, go back and change every time I said his name. And I mean for the past 6 or 7 years I've known him. Yeah.
Exactly.
Matt, I'm sorry.
It's fine.
It is not fine. It's terrible. And I would go on and on about it, but we're out of time. So my next episode will be finally the long anticipated Dragonlance. Have you ever read Dragonlance?
I have not.
It is, it ain't a short story. It's a 450-page novel.
Woo!
So,
Hope it's good.
yes, with lots of trolls and elves and dragons and adventure. I have done that. And then after that, I'm very, very excited because I'm doing Quantum Leap with a guest I'm thrilled about. He's the host of the How to Destroy Everything podcast. I don't know if you're familiar, Darren Gotsky. And he has chosen 3 episodes. And I'm going to tell everybody what they are in case you guys want to watch these and join the conversation. So it's the original Quantum Leap, Future Boy, Season 3, Episode 13, A Leap for Lisa, Season 4, Episode 22, and The Leap Home, which is a 2-parter, Season
Ooh.
3, Episodes 1 and 2. I have asked Darren if I'm to watch them chronologically or in the order he sent them, and I don't know yet. But watch those episodes if you want to participate in the conversation. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Matt DeGroat. You are a gem.
Likewise.
And now I expect you to die.